All right, man. Welcome to InnerVerse Podcast, episode 5. We got a special guest. It's Crrow777 in the house with me and Dylan. We're going to be talking about the astronomico-theological lectures of the Reverend Robert Taylor, one of the greats of all time, straight to jail with his refutations of church history and astro-theological proofs of the scriptures, one of the best biblical scholars that ever existed. I'm excited to get into it. Dylan, how you doing, man?
I'm awesome, and I'm so excited because for my audience, Chance and Crrow are probably the two most important guys for me professionally. They kind of looked into my work and started bringing me on their podcasts in 2020, and it's really changed my life. And Crrow's had a profound impact on both of our lives. And I wanted to read a little introduction, some things that I started noticing. And so I'm going to read it and you guys just sit back and I'll let you know when I'm done. You ready? Because I want my audience, a lot of people have come to me over the last year or so, not through ways of like controversial topics. And some of them are very familiar with things that Crrow has put out there, but they don't really know Crrow and they haven't been exposed to Crrow. And this is like a really exciting day for me. So ladies and gentlemen, behold, the 3 fire signs of the zodiac, which is Chance, he's Aries, I'm Leo, and Crrow is Sagittarius. I know he goes with Ophiuchus, but if we just do the traditional one, he's a Sag. On the 6th day of the 6th month in the 24th year of the alleged second millennium, in the age of Aquarius, it's controversial for some, but it's reckoned an hour before dawn by observing the heliacally rising stars at the vernal equinox, so that the sacrifices may be prepared and offered, as well as the festival commenced at sunrise. This is the method of the ancients, whose system we still recklessly employ today. So let those with eyes to see and ears to hear recognize the sun's number on the date of this recording. And it reminded me of Ezekiel 10, 9 through 11. And he saith to me, go in and see the evil abominations that they are doing here. And I go in and look, and lo, every form of creeping thing and detestable beast, and all the idols of the house of Israel graved on the wall, all round about, and 70 men of the elders of the house of Israel. So these are all astronomical concepts encoded in allegory, which I covered in my Spirit World series. And like I said, Chance and Crrow happen to be the most responsible for my audience getting books 4 through 6, which in my opinion is my best work. And without them giving me that platform in 2020, I wouldn't have been as motivated to publish the rest of my research because it was a lot of work to do during a time when my life was falling apart. Now, these two gentlemen are easily the most competent in this space that I can have conversations with regarding these subjects because they've also done the work and gone through some of the significant material on their own time, demonstrated it themselves. And once somebody does that, it's like going to the gym. You get that physique. There's no need to appeal to perceived authorities or other experts on working out. Once you've done the work and made yourself that vessel, you've strengthened yourself. And it is useful to cite authorities because it can help support your case. But these guys are really proficient in these subjects. And I'm super excited to talk to them about it. And not only is Crrow a godsend for me, but this is really exciting over the last 3 years that I get to see on a regular basis that maybe Crrow doesn't. But Crrow does a ton of philanthropy behind the scenes, and he doesn't ever talk about it. He's not a bragger, so I am a bragger, and I'm going to talk about some of the stuff he does. But he's also been a catalyst for introducing people like Eileen Day McCusick to Chance, who's been she's been a mentor to him. And over the last couple of years, Chance has literally gone from still being in the workforce to now being a biofield tuner professional, in addition to being a professional podcaster and researcher. And, you know, I think that entitles Crrow to a free tuning if he wants one. Chance. Hint, hint. Some of my best friends over the last couple of years have found me through Crrow, and they've had Crrow on their platforms as a guest. And, you know, people come to mind like Patrick Daly and Chance, obviously. And there's no end to the ripples that Crrow created since bursting onto the scene with significant astronomical discoveries over the last decade or two. And I've been subscribed to him since around 2014, I think, but it might have been 2013 is when the lunar wave started getting popular. And he first observed this so-called lunar wave back in 2012. I think he recorded it. Maybe you'll have to correct me if it's a little earlier than that. But upon confirmation of this phenomenon, I should say, being captured over other luminaries, specifically wandering luminaries that we call planets, it's not exclusive to the moon, which then begets further inquiries into the nature of our world. And we're going to go through this. But the second significant discovery was in regards to the sun, which just came out a couple years ago. And the discipline that Crrow has to sit on this footage and thoroughly vet it before making it known to the public is, I mean, I don't know that I have that discipline. He sits on stuff for years and makes sure he gets it right, which is awesome. And I learned so much about astronomy and observing things in the cosmos just by looking at his scope work, which he also publishes on his website, Crrow777radio.com. That's CRROW 777radio.com. And the thing about the sun that's really fantastic to me is it indicates we may have two bodies or two suns that is sometimes referred to or thought to have been referred to in the Indian traditions as Ketu and Rahu. Or that there's another possibility that maybe one of the suns we see is a projection, possibly an effect of light coming from beyond the containment barrier of this world. And if that sounds crazy, containment must exist in order for us to breathe the pressurized air that we do at sea level, which is 14.7 pounds per square inch. And so all of this and many more observations of strange and beautiful objects in the sky are included in his years of scope work that Jason Lindgren helped him create an award-winning documentary called Shoot the Moon. All of this is going to be linked up in the show notes. And members of his site can watch it for free. Otherwise, you can just rent Shoot the Moon on Vimeo. Now, Crrow hosts a weekly podcast that covers a variety of topics, which gave and continues to give his listeners tools to save lives and livelihoods all over the world. I don't think I've ever even told Crrow this, but I've personally used a document created by one of his guests to save a woman from being fired for not wanting to engage in health measures foisted upon her during the height of the Wuhan Wiggle madness. This enabled her to keep her job and maintain her mortgage. It literally saved her life and her livelihood, possibly her daughter's as well. One of my favorite people that subscribes to us, all of our channels, is a woman named Erin. And if I'm not mistaken, she will appear on Crrow's podcast in the coming months to talk about her experience with, as she put it, wild pregnancy and birthing outside the system. Now, that document, I included it in the show notes, but if you really want it, you're going to have to get it at Crrow's site, and there's all kinds of other useful documents that can help you in life. There's a saying that it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And Crrow is the warrior in a garden to the T. And if you're interested in hearing one of the best interviews he's ever done, revealing some of his history in foreign conflicts and how he came to be a warrior in a garden, you need to visit Nachiketa's channel on YouTube. For those who are just listening or watching, all of this, again, will be linked in my show notes. And some of the themes that come to mind when I think of Crrow's podcast are health, history, astronomy, astrology, law, physics, energy, cymatics, gardening, herbalism, getting back to nature, natural birth, and all sorts of things that benefited our ancestors that we've abandoned in this current technological era. So without further ado, let's catch my members up with Crrow's observations and thoughts on his latest scope work before diving into today's topic of conversation. Crrow, thanks for being here. Chance, I'm excited to be doing this. Appreciate you being here and hosting us as well.
All right. Wow, that was a hell of an intro. With that in mind, I'm about to bop a drum here. You ready? Here it comes. This is 6/6. Maybe it's the new D-Day. This day, 6/6/24, I located the second sun again. I have it on film. It was filmed in Michigan with my counterpart, who has been my technical advisor and the man who has made it possible for me to shoot at the level that I am shooting now that everything is computerized and gone to hell in a handbasket, in my view, no longer analog. He has set up systems for me and security for me and hard drives the size of I don't know what, because a 2,000 frame clip through my new scope weighs 6 gigabytes. But we have located it. It is roughly, I don't know, a fifth of the sun away from the sun right now on the left upper limb of the sun. And if you go to somewhere like SDO that shows you views of the sun, you will notice that all the activity is exploding off the left side, the same side we just found it. 2 days ago, I commented to my buddy, we have had perfect sunsets for over a week, no spraying. And 2 days ago, that changed. And I said to him, do you suppose now that they're spraying heavily and covering the sunset in the west that the second sun is visible again? Here we are 2 days later and we've located it.
Hot damn. Well, this is perfect because some people have no idea what we're talking about. Chance, could you kick off that video of the sun we see and the one we don't? Do you want to comment on that, Crrow, or do you want to wait till it's done? Because I really want people. The whole purpose for me doing this, you have been memory hold probably more than anybody on the freaking internet right now, and it really pisses me off. So what I really want to do is get all these significant videos. They're only like 2-minute clips each, but I want them in one place so people really see what you've contributed to our culture. Really.
Do you want sound with that, Dylan?
It's up to Crrow. We can do it, play with sound, he can comment, or we can play without sound and he can comment.
Yeah, let's just run it without audio because the audio is like old.
Okay, so
14 or something.
Do the sun we don't see, Chance.
Maybe it is the new D-Day.
And one of the things people might have concerns with is like whether or not this is like glitch, like, just technological stuff. And so if you could walk them through that and show you how you know it's real and it's not like just technological.
Well, it's been proven to be a body, and I can talk about that. So what you're about to see is the sun we do see being shot through a Coronado 90 millimeter solar max. I first found the sun we don't see in it might have been the end of 2013, but I know it was in 2014. And then I came back again in 2015. There's the sun we see. If you look at the bottom, you can see prominences. This is a 90 millimeter solar scope. So now you're seeing me slew. That's lens flare right there. That is legit lens flare. And I'm looking around because when I shot the moon, I kept finding bright sky spots in the sky using a full spec camera. So here, watch the top of the frame. See that thing creep by? Keep your eye on the top of the frame and you'll see it creep again. There's the sun we see with our eyes. And this other object that will creep across the top, we can't see with our eyes. There it is. There's the sun we don't see. And it was shot at roughly in the hydrogen alpha spectrum at roughly 5 AU. And so you can't bring it into focus, or, well, on my new system, we'll see what I can do now that I know where it is again. And I should state, I'm reasonably sure the reason we can't find it is because it continually goes through the sun. Right now, I'm taking my hand and blocking the end of the telescope to try to prove it's not lens flare. I'm also taking a 4-foot long cardboard tube and putting it over the end of the telescope. 2 years later, a guy named Chris Van Maitre did the exact same thing, found what I found, confirming it, but it was on the opposite side of the sun. And instead of being below it, or above it, it was below it. There is footage confirming that this is a known thing, that we have a second sun. A man from the SLU Observatory is on film, filming this sun, almost kissing our sun. And he states matter-of-factly that is in fact the second sun. NASA knows all about it, but they don't want us to know about it. Right now, this object, which seems like maybe the firmament is in between us and it because you can't seem to get a focus, which is what happened again today. It seems like it ducks behind the sun or into the glare of the sun a lot. Now, here's the rub. You couldn't see this with your eyes today or when I filmed it before because I was using hydrogen alpha etalons. But at sunset, you can sometimes see this with your naked eye, which is why I urge people to film at sunset. This is, I think, why they chemtrail the crap out of where the sun rises and sets, because they don't want us to see this second sun or whatever it is. when I shot it, when we found it today, my buddy was in disbelief. He actually sent his telescope home. So he slewed it off the sun and came back. And his exact words are, damn it, it didn't go away, because he doesn't, like everyone, what do you do with this? So actually, I'm not going to say some of the things I was about to, because I've learned that I can get my view of things blocked when people don't want me to see things. But as of today, we've relocated it. It is to the left of the sun and slightly above the sun, but you can't even fit 3 fingers at arm's length in between them. And so I have an idea of where it is. It is my speculation, and this is total speculation, that when you see the chemtrails blocking the sunset, it is because this other body is detectable and probably poking out from behind the sun we see. But that's all speculation right now.
The implications, I think, like in the next coming years, and especially as you drop your latest scope work, it's so exciting to see what's possible if people can beat the Al Gore rhythms and not have it all memory hold. It's like the wildfire that could potentially catch on right in the coming years, and to know that you've been around this whole time bringing this stuff forward that changes paradigms regardless of what anyone's worldview is. It can't be ignored, and that's what I love about it.
Well, if you think of all the Hollywood propaganda that matters, you can't dismiss the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, because it was set up, it was high budget, it was extremely well done, and it was meant to do a single thing: to make the minds of this world accept that we were about to go to the moon. There's a sequel to that film called 2010. And at the end of that movie, the star gives a long soliloquy where he informs the world, my children will grow up under 2 suns in the new era. And I suspect that was a knowing poke in the eye.
This kind of thing goes on constantly. I don't know if you've been aware of how abnormal, we'll say, the weather is and all the tornadoes going on beyond the pale of what is average. And then they're about to drop this Twisters movie in theaters. So setting people up for the idea of like, probably that'll contain all sorts of Al Gore related theme stuff of why the CC is behind all of our weather shifts. But just thought I'd point that out, that it's a continual thing, the pre-programming in movies, which you've covered endlessly, Crrow. And
the reason they exist at this point, when's the last time and I'm not trying to insult people here, and I know I'm the old man shaking my fist at the cloud, all right? I get that.
No, you can say whatever you want here. We want you.
Here's the thing. My wife and I constantly want to find a new movie that's good, and we can't do it. And you can say we're old and we're shaking our fist. Like, that's true. It's true. But I miss a story-driven film that has something to say, that is not violence-ridden and computer-generated nonsense-driven. And when you look at what movies have become, it's almost like their whole existence is pre-program and reprogram everybody. Right now, the gender dysphoria nonsense is a big part of it. Look at even in Dune, they put 5 races into the Fremen. Well, that undermines the whole idea of what was going on those planets. That was an ancient race, a singular ancient race of people who had come up tied, lock, stock, and barrel to nature because they couldn't exist if they didn't. And this goes on and on and on. And what I'm trying to point out here is what media, what the internet, and what film and music have become in the modern age are social engineering apparatus. That's it. Why they exist, it's why they're funded right now.
And I agree with you. And I'm not some old man shaking his. I agree 100%, because sometimes, for those who know me, I went out to Hollywood, and I really love storytelling and fiction. And after seeing what's going on, I've had to look in the mirror, and I'm like, what's wrong with me that I was attracted to ever wanting to do that in the first place? But then every once in a while, I see some of these old movies that I loved as a young person, as a kid. And I'm like, no, those are still good. Like, a lot of those older things, there are still some good stories and heartwarming things. And I remember, oh no, there wasn't anything wrong with me. things were just better back. Not things, but like the movie, just the storytelling component. It didn't have, yeah, it has agendas, but they had to be subtle about it, and they couldn't be so overt about all the perversion.
You know, we'd been looking for a movie to watch and we couldn't, so we're not doing it. And the other night I managed to come across one of my favorite movies called The Burmese Harp. It's a Japanese film about a man's experience in World War II at the time of the supposed Japanese surrender. But it's story driven and it has a message. It has something to say about war, about a human being, about what's real, about the spirituality that gets clipped off while all this other violent nonsense is going on. And we watched it, and it just brings home all the more what's missing from our world. I saw my wife the other day watching one of these tribute bands to Pink Floyd on TV. And it came to me that even people like Roger Waters from the band Pink Floyd were hailing what a great band they were. But the truth of it is, what are they doing? They're regurgitating old art because there is no art in that genre worth respecting at this time. Or maybe I should say precious little. We have musicians now who are not musicians. Not only do they not play an instrument, they don't write a damn thing they're performing, because that's what they are, performers. But what's worse is we have genres of so-called music that don't even have melody or harmony. How do we call that music? Shouldn't we call it maybe poetry to a beat or something other than music? Because where I came from, music needs melody and harmony, minimally. And so in this era of the stupefaction of the worldwide population, we need to get a handle on things, because all these things that we have become used to and that we spend our entertainment time engaging in are doing a thing that statistically has been proven to work. Social engineer and reprogram your mind. And it does not matter if you're aware of it. It does not, you're not immune. Nobody's immune. I'm not immune. I've never met anyone who is immune except for the people who were completely aware of what's going on and detached from it wholly.
And this is why symbolic literacy is the thing that we are all about, me and Dylan, when we collaborate together, because symbolic literacy is psychic self-defense. There's no complete immunity, as you're saying, from the different hooks that get into your consciousness with the manipulative media, but at least having the literacy of the symbolism will give you the ability to see where the Overton window is being shifted, where the hooks are being laid, and maybe sound the alarm about it. And I think this is as old as time when we're going to look at some scriptural stuff coming up with our Reverend Robert Taylor deep dive. The origins of the priesthood in theater, right? And how that comes through in the story of Lazarus, as we'll discuss. And the fact that before there were movies, there were fables, and there were allegories. And now
the three first actors were called hypocrites, and they were the priests doing these tragedies.
Yes, and they were not allowed to be buried in the same graveyard as Christians.
That is the original definition in Greek for an actor who they weren't allowed to do anything because they were known to be duplicitous. It was against the law for them to hold an office, because how do you know if they're acting, right? So common sense ruled the day back then. I remember vividly when Ronald Reagan took office, and I thought to myself, so now it's okay for a known Hollywood actor to get up and pretend in front of us, and everyone's going to be all about it. And everyone was all about it. And that day, the common sense values of at least this nation fell about 10 steps. About half a flight tumbled on that very day. And it's only gotten worse since then.
But you can't give up, because you keep doing a lot of great work and impacting lives. And when you unplug from like the social media and stuff and what all the negative stuff is, I go outside, and in my community, everything's pretty much thriving. So it's only when I plug into the system that everything becomes diseased and toxic and weird and all this social engineering. And don't give up, because you do a lot of great work. And I've personally seen it. You're looking at two younger men than you. We're a generation behind you, and our lives have changed dramatically. and we've helped other people change their lives dramatically. So you've done a lot of great stuff. So just, sometimes it gets depressing, and you might not see all the benefits that you've had on, or the impact that you've had on people, but you do have an impact. And that's the one positive. And that is that's the consciousness type of thing that can't be stopped. And before we go to the free hour, I want to just fit in, because there are people here that have never seen or heard of the lunar wave. And I want you to play that Chance, and Crrow, you can walk us through it. And the reason being is, again, these are things that people initially just tried to debunk as, oh, that's just the technology of the camera or whatever else. And Crrow has an exact explanation of how he proved it wasn't.
From the first clip, it was completely provable that it's not technical, but people still won't consider.
They're liars. Once you do put anything out there that challenges a lot of people's worldview and makes them have to think about things that they might be uncomfortable with, they will lie, deny, and do whatever else to avoid this.
There's the wave coming in at the bottom. Notice that. Back it up a little bit, Chance. Watch the camera pan, and I'll tell you when the wave's coming in. Watch. I'll walk you through the proof. There's the wave. I pan the camera above the wave. There's the wave. It caught up to the camera. No more proof will ever be needed. In the history of the world, that is a filmed event. It is undeniable. And if you choose to deny it, then you're just telling lies. So what's happening here? The wave comes in. I pan the camera above the wave, not having noticed it. See it here. And my reaction is what everyone's is. Oh, crap, my camera, or something's failing here. Something's gone wrong. For quite weeks, I sit there, and I almost deleted this, by the way. What I would do is watch. If I film nothing, I would delete it. I reached over to delete this, luckily did not. Weeks, I said, oh, this is camera glitch. Just finally, after weeks, I delete it off my computer. That night, I had an epiphany as I laid down to sleep. I shot out of bed, restored it out of my trash. Luckily, I didn't do a permanent delete. And it shook me, because I realized not only was it a filmed event, it couldn't be argued that it wasn't, unless a dimwit didn't want to use their brain, which happened for a long time, actually. What's going on here is there are two waves, and if you pay attention to the backdrop, they offset the moon. Two waves completely offset the image of the moon we're witnessing. And so for years, a year and a half, I tried to film nothing. Year and a half later, I filmed it again, and I was the only known person to have filmed it twice. So then, of course, I had to be a liar, because I was the only one who had done it. People are making clips showing how I could animate it to fake it. And for the record, I don't lie intentionally, and I don't fake things. That's not what I'm about. But then finally, other people started to film it. Fast forward to now, this so-called lunar wave, which isn't the best name for it, should probably be called a firmament wave if I had to guess. And I am guessing it's been filmed in front of two other luminaries, Jupiter and Saturn. So we know certainly that it can probably be filmed anywhere across the ecliptic, or the path of the sun, planet, and moon, so-called, if they are backlit sufficiently. But my guess is it could probably be filmed anywhere in the sky if it's backlit enough. But this is what changed everything. And I don't remember how it got the name lunar wave, but however that happened, it stuck. And it became the reason that I was censored, and the reason that Google has put an algorithm out on the internet. So if anyone searches for my name, instead of getting 16 to 25 million returns like you used to, you get about 1,000 if you're lucky. And they start doubling on the second or third page. So you really only get maybe a page. And those returns are typically debunking me or something unhelpful.
And for those who aren't aware, you can just go look at his YouTube. He's been at 200,000 subscribers for over half a decade, because they're not allowing his channel to grow. He would have probably millions of viewers by now. And we'd actually be really storming the castle and making a lot of progress. So for those of you who wonder why things aren't progressing the way you want, it's because the people who are doing some of the most significant work in these spaces to lead the charge are getting all kinds of censorship and problems, and getting attacked on the payment processors and other ways of censoring people. And that's what's going on. And it's all the good people too. So if you really want to actually expedite the process of things getting better in this world, you need to support people like Crrow. So he has more resources to do these groundbreaking things that he's on the cutting edge of. And he's been famous for it. It's awesome. And, go ahead, Crrow. Sorry.
All the work that I do now is on Crrow777radio.com. If there is social media, it is simply an advertisement telling you something about the website. There's a new show, there's a new video, whatever. The reason for this is, and I'll tell you exactly how it went down. When the shooting at the Mandalay Bay occurred, I had stopped informing people what a false flag was. When that event happened, everyone lost their mind again because powers that be had tripled down, and they fooled all the people who should have been woken up, were fooled right back. And immediately after I called it out on YouTube, saying it was fake, it was staged, and it's mimicking the opening lines of Macbeth. And the shooter's name is the demon familiar, where the three witches meet in the desert. His name's Paddock. The demon is Paddock, the toad that they're using to cast their magic when the hurly-burly is done. And so I outed it, and immediate response of that was I started getting calls on an unlisted number of people saying, I lost a family member in that. How dare you? And my response was, if I am wrong, I will publicly apologize. Please tell me the hospital or the undertaker that took care of them, and I will cover all costs. At which point, every one of them disappeared. And you could recognize them because it's always my uncle's dog's cousin's monkey that was lost. And so what happened, and ironically, this would have been episode 77 posted to my YouTube channel. It didn't post. It was shut down. They took a YouTube channel with over 100 grand or whatever it was, and they deleted it. I start getting emails every day. Put up a new channel. I said, you're high. Never will I get kicked in the balls and then open my legs and ask to get kicked in the balls again. Never will I set up another YouTube channel ever. 3 weeks later, they put it back, but it wasn't really my channel. Something had happened. It was bizarre. And over the next couple days, it started to morph back to what my channel had been, except they took with them 50,000 subs-ish, 25 to 50,000, and a bunch of videos, which I will never know because there were hundreds. So the day before that happened, if you put Crrow777 in a search engine, depending where you were in the world, what your engine was, you got 16 to 20 or 25 million returns, page after page after page of all the places that had embedded my content or associated me some way. The day they deleted that, they put an algorithm, and I have the tech friend who helps me, who's like hacker du jour, world class, help me prove that when you search Crrow777, in some places you would get 0 returns. Like if it was searched in a place where Crrow777 wasn't really known about, you would get 0 returns. Where I was, it went to under 1,000. So from millions to 1,000. If you put Lunar Wave in, you got 5,000 returns. Used to be millions. If you put my name after Lunar Wave, it went to a couple hundred. And that algorithm has been in place ever since.
Yeah, and for those who are unfamiliar how these spaces work, 50,000 subscribers, those are potential business. Those are potential customers, right? So if we were even just being conservative at like $5 a subscription, right? You're looking at that's costing $250,000 a month. They've taken from you if you got you know what I mean? So people always see like all these famous podcasters like the Rogans and all that other stuff. They're part of the establishment and they get paid hundreds of millions of dollars. Whereas people like Crrow actually have to earn their business, and they're taking that out of your pocket. And then that's taking it out of people's like me and Chance's pocket, who you give platforms to. You know, it's like the
other thing is, yeah, when I finally did get on YouTube, right before I got on, people were making $8,000 a month. The most I think I ever made was $1,000 in a month when I worked my butt off and put out, the content I was doing, one of a kind, high def telescope content. I think my best month was $1,000, but typically it was 200 or 300, but that was before I woke up. And when I realized that I was lying to myself and that I was working for a place that would claim my work. By the way, I got a notice from YouTube at one point informing me that they could use my footage anywhere they wanted because I'd uploaded it to their platform, and that basically they had partial ownership, which was the first lunar wave that you just saw includes that footage. And that was it. And that's why I built Crrow777radio.com. But what people don't realize, the expense to run a website like Crrow777radio.com, you have no idea. Every month, there are thousands of attempted attacks. Some months, there are hundreds of thousands of attempted attacks. We have to pay for security, code guys. You have no idea what it takes. And so, I don't mind that I'm not a millionaire, but I do want to pay my bills, which I am doing. But my point is they make you, claw and scratch.
I do mind because you help so many people. I'm just going to talk some numbers real quick so you can see even when Crrow's YouTube was censored, but he was still posting the first hour on his YouTube. I made like 20 grand off the first episode we did in 2 hours just because we did such a good job and people loved it. So they went and supported my work. So this is the kind of thing when you look at people like me, like, oh, why don't you have a family yet? And it's like, well, because every time we put one step ahead, these motherfuckers are trying to knock us back a peg. So we've got to not only carry our own weight, we've got to put all these other things on top of us. And we're still getting back up because until you kill us, we're going to get back up because we know how to take an ass whooping and get back up and whoop some ass. And we're going to whoop some ass on the next side of this. You better believe it with Robert Taylor. But before we go, this is it for the free people. This is longer than we usually ever do, but this is such a special episode. This is Crrow's favorite preview for his documentary, Shoot the Moon. It's awesome. Go subscribe to Crrow777radio.com and you get it for free. And it's like $7 a month. And he hasn't raised the price in God knows how long. I think he should be doing like 10 to 20 a month, but that's me.
Yeah, it's actually $8 a month.
Oh yeah. I think you should raise it, but whatever.
This was all shot when I was still living in San Diego when my mother was still alive. I moved to the East Coast to take care of my mother until she died, and then I just stayed.
God bless Mama Crrow.
This is an all-original soundtrack by a friend of ours who is a professor of music at LSU. This is shot in East County of San Diego. This is my backyard where I had a very minuscule view of the sky that I shot nearly everything that's in this film. This is the 8-inch telescope I bought when I got out of the Marine Corps, and I went in debt $2,600 to get it. It was the best debt I ever accrued. And there is the bane of existence. This is the old-fashioned analog days. I'm putting a DSLR on the back of an 8-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope. And that's the window I was looking at when I saw the lunar wave, which is why I didn't see it begin. 3 inches, 3.5 inches. This was shot through a 12-inch telescope that I had to return because the company that made that telescope went to Tijuana, owned by China, and it was a piece of crap. The skies are full of so much technology you can't even imagine. There's a lunar wave, but the moon is half a degree of sky, and that's the only way we see any of the things that I filmed. So everything is being backlit half a degree of sky. That was Mars. This is an orb that sat for 7 hours near my house. It all started in 2012 when I shot the first lunar wave. I filmed for 4 years straight. Nearly went broke, but it's astonishing the things that I filmed. And it's even more astonishing what's happened since then.
That was so epic. I didn't know if you were narrating or if that was the actual clip. Because I haven't watched it in a month or so. That's crazy. Yeah, that was good. All right, everybody, come on over. If you're my people, we're at greattide.substack.com. Just click the become a member and you can get the rest of this. And if you're on Chances, he does his, he has a private YouTube now, as well as his Patreon. Chance, if you want to kick it off.
Yeah, Patreon's the way to go, though. Best deal for everybody. Patreon.com/InnerVerse. Get this and all the other exclusive content that I put out. But either one of us, you support either one of us, you get Inner World in its entirety. And I think it's some of both of our best content ever. Really excited for what's on the other side of this to talk about. Really, it's like Crrow's top catchphrase, right? Belief is the enemy of knowing. And we're going to begin with Reverend Robert Taylor's lecture about why belief is not the safe side. You've all heard it before, I'm sure, the argument that, well, with religion, you're safer to just believe because what's the harm if you're wrong? And if you're right, then you skip hell and go to heaven. Well, Reverend Robert Taylor eviscerates that entire framework of thought in his classic scathing wit. Man, those intellectual, British academic 18th century burns are the harshest burns. I love it. So I'm really excited for the other side. And thanks for being here, Crrow. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And see you on the other part.